Unexpected twist, billionaire reveals $2 million gift to help poor girl with baby's hospital bill. The news hit the small town like a lightning bolt. Headlines splashed across social media, painting Lily Collins as a symbol of desperation and hope, her story thrust into the spotlight. She was just 16, a girl forced into adulthood, now struggling to care for her newborn daughter while keeping her grades up. The weight of hospital bills loomed like a dark cloud, heavy and relentless, as calls from the hospital piled on top of her daily realities. The dollar signs circled her mind like vultures, each number gnawing at her heart. At school, the whispers were suffocating. If she hadn't gotten pregnant, they would say, their judgments like daggers. She fought the urge to scream at them to see her for more than the mistakes she made. Beneath the surface of determination, a tide of shame crashed against her will. Despair slithered into her thoughts, settling into her chest, filling her with a sense of unease. She was encased in a life that felt like a cage, yet she longed for freedom. She knew what was happening. Her mother was on her way home from another long shift at the diner, a weary warrior waging the same battle day in and day out. They were in this together, but the struggle felt isolating. How many times had she found herself alone at midnight, cradling her baby in darkness while the world outside continued to spin in ignorance? The ringing phone jolted her back to reality, foreboding and urgent. This call might be the one that toppled what little hope she had left. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the generous billionaire's news spread, Lily's feelings tangled into an unbearable knot. Was it truly altruism, or just a way for someone affluent to ease their own conscience? Did he even grasp the weight of her struggle? She felt a flicker of anger igniting inside her, challenging the comfort of gratitude. The uproar over his gift was heating up, and she faced the scrutiny of an entire town who had opinions about her life, most of them unkind. Lily sat at her desk that evening, studying for finals but hardly absorbing any information. Her mind cycled through fear and indignation. How was she expected to face her classmates tomorrow? The same faces that had shunned her? The past echoed in her thoughts. What was she to say about this new reality? Little did she know, the drama was just beginning. As the town hall buzzed with discontent, Lily's moment would come. When she finally built the courage to share her truth, would her voice rise above the judgments and opinions straining her heart at the seams? Just as she stepped into the spotlight, Amelia, a classmate with a reputation for being sharp-tongued, interrupted her. Do you even know what true sacrifice looks like? Silence blanketed the room. Tension screeched like a drawn bowstring, and all eyes turned toward Lily, heart racing at the crossroads of her life. How would she respond? This moment could redefine everything, but now it hung in the air, heavy and taut, aching for resolution. Lily felt the charged atmosphere suffocating her, the weight of Amelia's words compressing her throat. The room was a crucible, her vulnerability displayed before familiar and unkind faces. Frosty stares and hushed whispers enveloped her like a misplaced shroud. She was no longer just the girl who had made a mistake, she was a topic everyone dissected, a living moral lesson that left her feeling exposed and raw. In that moment of silence, her heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out the sounds around her. She wanted to say something profound, something that would shatter their expectations and render their judgments irrelevant. Yet, the words tangled in her throat, a jumbled mess of indignation and doubt. Did she even know what true sacrifice looked like? Perhaps she hadn't lived long enough to understand the complexities Amelia spoke of. But wasn't the weight of silence itself a kind of sacrifice? Lily gripped the edge of the podium until her knuckles turned white. Her pulse steadied as realization poured into her. This was her moment, not just for herself but for her daughter, for all those late nights spent rocking in silence, for the unyielding battles fought against the tide of societal scorn. Her daughter deserved a mother who could stand tall, who could speak without shame. "I may have made mistakes, but I'm not a mistake," Lily finally declared, her voice surprisingly robust. The word struck out like a lifeline amid the tumultuous sea of judgment. Sacrifice isn't just an act of heroism that can be measured by others' approval. It's tiny moments of resilience, 2 moments that go unseen. A murmur rippled through the audience. She had caught their attention, and with it came the flickers of curiosity as well as skepticism trying to worm their way back in. The wide eyes of her peers reflected confusion, prompting an unsettling understanding that she was beginning to shift the narrative from victimhood to self-agency. "I'm here because I didn't choose to be perfect. I chose to be present," she continued, emboldened by her own fervor. "I've learned more about strength in these past months than I ever could in a classroom." Each statement pulsed with the power of revelation, growing louder, sharper. "I'm taking my situation and using it as fuel. I want to help others feel seen. I may not know what a true sacrifice looks like, but I do know love, and I know determination." It felt freeing, this shift. As she spoke, a semblance of purpose began to envelope her. Maybe it was time to turn her anger into action, to channel her pain into something constructive. But how? She had no clear plan, no script outlining her next steps, only a foggy vision of leverages and pathways beyond the immediate chaos. The murmur transformed into something more, a spark of solidarity or perhaps the unease of recognizing their own failings in the face of her conviction. Amelia crossed her arms, clearly unsettled but unable to retort. The silence that followed now felt heavy in a different way, charged with dignity rather than dread. The tide in the room was beginning to change subtly, as if those gathered were grappling with their own consciences. Suddenly, an idea pierced through the tension. What if she could initiate a campaign that raised awareness about young mothers in need? Could she rally support from others who had once walked a similar path, turning their stories into beacons of hope? As she stepped away from the podium, heart singing with the embers of newfound determination, a vision crystallized. It was daunting yet thrilling, the kind of leap she had often dreamed about but felt too small to contemplate. What if she discovered a way to channel her passion for change into tangible results? With that thought lingering, she turned, recognizing it was time to take her next step. Only, as she did, she caught a glimpse of a formidable figure at the back of the hall. The billionaire, whose generosity had sparked this turmoil, was watching her intently. Did he understand the significance of this moment for her? Lily inhaled deeply, embarking on a new path riddled with uncertainty, but the flame of change flickered beneath her, urging her forward. This was not just about the financial gift, it was about reclaiming her narrative. What would her next move be? Would she confront him directly, or could she learn from him in unexpected ways? The direction of her journey was about to unfold, and she was ready to navigate the challenges ahead. Lily felt the charge in the room shift as her gaze settled on the billionaire. He had the power to change her life, to provide the kind of assistance that could ignite the spark of her vision. But she knew that simply standing there would not be enough. Vulnerability was her new armor, not a weakness to be exploited. Questions flooded her mind. Would he respect her fight for purpose? Or would he see her as just another source of media fodder to bolster his reputation? As her heart raced, she felt an odd mixture of fear and curiosity. She had stood before a crowd moments ago, finding her voice. Now, she was faced with a giant, unsure how to approach him. "Excuse me, are you?" she began, swallowing hard as she approached him. With each step, her pulse quickened, filling the air with an urgency that felt palpable. "Yes, I am," he replied smoothly, peering down at her with those discerning eyes that seemed to pierce through her facade of resolve. "I'd like to talk about what just happened back there and my vision for a project aimed at helping young mothers," she blurted out, feeling uncharacteristically bold. "Your contribution could really make a difference." He raised an eyebrow, showing slight interest but keeping his demeanor that of a calculated observer, as if he were evaluating a risky investment. "You mean the speech?" His tone was encouraging yet distant, prompting Lily to push forward. "Yes." "It was empowering," she said, searching for the right words. "But it's about more than just words. I believe I can reach people, share their stories, and highlight the struggles that mothers like me face every day." She felt something shift within her, the idea solidifying into something tangible. "Interesting concept," he replied, his voice low and considering. "But what makes you think you can do this? What is your experience?" His questions were sharp, yet she took a deep breath, reminding herself of the fire ignited moments ago. "I might not have experience in fundraising or campaigns, but I've lived through those struggles. I've felt the isolation, the judgment. And I'm willing to connect with others who feel the same." The billionaire leaned back, observing her with a critical eye. "You're passionate, I'll give you that. But passion won't fund a project. You'll need a plan, something more than just feelings." The reality of his words struck her, but rather than deterring her, it sparked a different kind of determination. "I can start by gathering stories, experiences, crafting a narrative that resonates. If I can show people the importance of community support." His gaze lingered on her, weighing her sentiment. "And then what?" "Raising awareness isn't enough. Financial viability?" "I'm not asking for handouts," she retorted, surprised at the fierceness in her voice. "I want partnership. Let us create something that gives people a reason to care." She could see the wheels turning in his mind, calculating risk versus reward. In that moment, Lily knew this was a pivotal juncture in her journey. The more she discussed her ideas, the clearer it became that she needed to approach this not merely as a plea for help, but as an opportunity to create something meaningful that aligned with her values. "What if we create a pilot program, showing measurable outcomes tied to your investment?" she suggested, emboldened by the thought. "I could work on the groundwork with community organizations. You could evaluate our progress and adjust as needed." The billionaire's eyes narrowed, calculating her propositions with steely focus. There was tension in the air, uncertainty lingered on the edge of her optimism. "I'll need to think about this," he finally said, his voice carrying a note of finality yet tinged with intrigue. "But if you're serious, contact my office, and let us set up a formal meeting." An unsettling mix of relief and anxiety washed over her. This wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. Hope flickered within her as she nodded in agreement, knowing now that the next step, transformative, challenging, perhaps daunting, was imminent. As she stepped away, her mind racing with possibilities, Lily wrestled with her fears and aspirations. What if this truly was the break she had been waiting for? But the bigger question loomed: was she ready to turn her heartfelt words into tangible actions that would ripple beyond her own life? A realization sparked within her: she held the power to shape not just her destiny but those of others who felt lost. Yet with newfound clarity came the weight of responsibility, a challenge she felt an unyielding need to embrace. As she exited the building, her fingers buzzed with her phone, signaling a change. Lily took a deep breath, ready to confront the tasks ahead. The gears of change had begun to turn, and she wasn't about to step back now. What awaited her in this journey might just reshape everything she believed about herself. And so she pondered as she walked away: could she truly rise to this occasion? Or would the pressures of expectation drown her resolve? As dusk settled around her, the shadows looming in the distance loomed large, and she understood the narrative was far from complete. The next chapter was waiting, but first, she had to answer one burning question: was she ready for the plunge into the unknown? The following days melted into a blur of thoughts and responsibilities. Lily found herself awake late into the night, sketching her project outline, willing the ideas to flow from the depths of her mind onto the page. Yet, with every burst of inspiration came a wave of self-doubt. Did she have the necessary skills? Would she even be able to communicate her vision clearly when the meeting finally took place? Each morning she stared at her reflection, searching for the confidence that had guided her during her speech, but that resolve felt fleeting. She had never been the one to lead, her life had been a series of reacting to circumstances, rather than shaping them. An unkempt world of bills, hospital visits, and juggling motherhood loomed like an ever-present cloud. The idea of facing an accomplished entrepreneur added another layer of pressure. Determined to fortify her approach, Lily began to reach out to local organizations. She fervently arranged meetings with leaders in maternal support and family services, gathering insights into their challenges, strategies, and what they believed the community truly needed. Each conversation was imbued with newfound energy. She scribbled notes frantically, feeling the pieces of her project start to knit together into a coherent narrative. Yet, vulnerability still crept through. Who was she to challenge established experts? On a particularly crisp afternoon, she found herself sitting across from a local nonprofit director. Listening to the stories of mothers heartbreakingly familiar yet varied, she felt a deep connection grow. The stories ignited something within her, transforming her fear into a fervent determination. She realized she could serve as the bridge, weaving these experiences into a narrative that could garner attention, stirring empathy and support. As the meetings progressed, the concept of her pilot program crystallized. It pivoted from being a mere idea into a robust framework. Focus groups would share their journeys, followed by a digital campaign to showcase their stories. This would not only raise awareness but also create a platform where disenfranchised mothers could be heard, giving them ownership over their narratives. Yet, a storm of anxiety simmered just beneath the surface. There was an insistence in her mind, repeating that she was an inexperienced mother with no business acumen. This idea was grand but risky. What if the billionaire dismissed her proposal outright or, worse, sided with the established organizations who had the experience she lacked? The day of the meeting arrived, thrumming with intensity. Clad in a crisp blazer that felt like armor, Lily stood outside the sleek office building, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the papers clutched against her chest. She inhaled deeply, wrestling with thoughts that spiraled, a pitiful cocktail of hope and dread. Walking into the building, she was greeted by the receptionist, and soon after, she was escorted into the boardroom. The billionaire sat by a large conference table, flanked by advisors who eyed her with an air of skepticism. This was it. Summoning her strength, she communicated with earnestness and passion, launching into her vision. The tension in the room seemed palpable, reactions ranged from interest to bemusement. She spoke of the mothers' voices, of bringing them from silence into the light, hoping to create an initiative with genuine impact, rather than merely a glossy facade. "I know I'm not what you might expect from a project leader," she began, feeling the urge to stake her claim. "But my experiences, my life, it connects me to this cause in a way that no statistic or well-crafted marketing strategy ever could. I want to bring learning and understanding to the forefront, something raw and real." The billionaire raised an eyebrow, sensing her earnestness as he leaned forward. "But passion without a firm strategy can falter easily. You don't have proven results, yet you're asking for substantial backing." A tight knot of anxiety twisted in her stomach. Shadows of doubt crept in, whispering that her vulnerability had put her at a disadvantage. But like a distant echo, the voices of the mothers she had spoken to surged within her, pushing her to confront the skepticism head-on. "If you're looking for perfect metrics, perhaps I'm not the right choice," she countered, the words pouring out fueled by an urgency she never expected within herself. "But sometimes, new ground requires fresh perspectives. The stories I carry are not neatly packaged, yet they have the potential to ignite change." As they deliberated, the door behind her opened, and her phone buzzed insistently in her pocket. It was a text from her sister about her baby's health. An unsettling weight settled in her chest, clueless about what was truly happening. Instinctively, her heart raced, and a surge of protective energy filled her. This was not merely her project, it was about real lives, including her own. "Perhaps we should listen closely," she heard herself suggest, the fervor growing as she gestured to the door. "How many mothers are in this community who feel unheard? It's time to break that cycle. The billionaire watched her intently, weighing her resolve against the uncertainty of her claims. This was not merely a proposal, it was the manifestation of everything she had been fighting for. With her heart pounding, the moment seemed to stretch infinitely. Would they recognize the urgency, the potential, and the importance of her call to action? As she awaited their feedback, she understood that the narrative was evolving far beyond what she had initially envisioned. But as the atmosphere thickened with anticipation, one burning thought flickered through her mind, forcing her to confront her inner fears. Were they just beginning to peel back the layers of her ambition, or would the weight of the moment crush her hopes entirely? The silence in the boardroom seemed to stretch on, with each passing moment amplifying the tension thrumming in Lily's chest. Uncertainty locked around her like shackles, but she squeezed her hands together to ground herself. The billionaire glanced to his advisors, then turned his gaze back to her. His expression was unreadable, a stark contrast to the storm whirling within her mind. "Your passion is commendable, but passion alone won't carry this initiative," he said finally, his voice resonating in the stillness. "What metrics will you use to gauge success? How will you attract the participants necessary to generate interest? Without a solid framework, I see this as an uphill climb." Defensive instincts kicked in. "I understand that skepticism is warranted. But what if the real success lies not in numbers but in connections made and voices heard?" Each word was a plea. Internally, a voice whispered to measure her ambition against the reality of her limitations, a tangled center of doubt. As murmurs exchanged among the advisors, Lily caught a glimmer of her own resolve igniting. She had learned in the past weeks that behind every statistic was a life, a narrative waiting to unfold. It's about valuing authenticity over perfection. I can gather testimonials that resonate with other mothers, fostering community engagement organically. "So you propose a qualitative assessment?" "That's unconventional," he replied, his brow furrowing slightly as he processed her words. "Exactly." Lily's pulse quickened at the notion of standing her ground. "The impact can be measured through direct engagement, qualitative feedback loops, and social media interaction. We harness the stories of those who feel invisible, giving them a stake in their own representation." His eyes narrowed, a mix of skepticism and interest visible. Just as she felt a twinge of triumph, the moment was undercut by the buzz of her phone again. Fear gripped her at the message that had interrupted her pitch earlier. She glanced quickly, another update from her sister. The urgency was not going away. Maneuvering between personal crisis and professional ambition created an immense pressure cooker of emotions. "Excuse me for a moment," she said, scrambling to maintain her focus. She stepped outside the boardroom, closing the door behind her, seeking an escape from the all-consuming intensity. The text detailed a new struggle regarding her sister's baby, and dread wrapped around her heart like ivy. How could she be expected to navigate this meeting when a personal storm raged? Sinking against the wall, she closed her eyes for a moment, allowing the panic to wash over her. Thoughts swirled. Would she even have the resolve to complete this project if her sister's challenges grew heavier? The desire to support her family clawed at her ambition. Yet, she realized something profound: if she could channel that anxiety into her project, maybe, just maybe, it could serve as a driving force rather than a barrier. Returning to the conference room with newfound strength, she said, "My sister is facing challenges with her baby's health, which has propelled me deeper into this cause. I'm not just fighting for my project, I'm fighting for mothers who feel helpless, just like I do right now." The room took her words in, energy shifting with the authenticity she had longed to express. The billionaire's body posture softened slightly, revealing a hint of empathy. "Your personal connection does indeed add depth to the project," he conceded. Caught in this loop of thoughts, she felt the fragile thread of doubt begin to unravel. Maybe she didn't need to be perfect, maybe her authenticity was the strength she had been overlooking all along. "Let us move forward," he declared, and the room felt suddenly alive with possibility. But as excitement danced at the edges of her consciousness, a sharp realization pierced through: was this only the beginning? Had she ignited a flame within this powerful figure to support not only her initiative but the mothers she represented? Walking back to her seat, energy surged in her chest. Discussion resumed, and she grappled with her ambitions, now intertwined with an unforeseen determination to bridge her personal struggles with her professional aspirations. However, a rogue thought whispered at the back of her mind: what if the very risk that she now embraced transformed unexpectedly? What if the stakes became higher than anyone had anticipated, challenging her to confront far deeper fears? As the meeting pressed on with renewed vigor, Lily caught a glimpse of her future unfolding, but shadows lingered on the periphery. Was she truly prepared for the twists that awaited her on this winding road of advocacy? The meeting transitioned into a whirlwind of strategic discussions, each moment laden with new insights and ideas. As Lily took notes, the anticipation mounted within her. She frequently glanced up at the billionaire, whose unexpected agreement had shifted the dynamics in a way she had nearly dared to dream. Her thoughts flickered between the boardroom and her sister's delicate situation, each competing for her focus in a dizzying ballet of urgency. Ideas flowed about outreach strategies, potential partnerships, and the importance of creating a narrative that would resonate with their target audience. There was an undercurrent of excitement, but a deeper, gnawing anxiety coiled in the pit of her stomach. With every moment, the stakes felt more real, as if she had set out on a tightrope suspended above a chaotic abyss. Let's discuss how we can leverage social media platforms, one advisor suggested, pulling her attention back in. We need a plan to engage participants even before the initiative fully launches. Lily's mind raced. The notion of harnessing digital spaces felt both thrilling and terrifying. We could create a series of videos showcasing real-life stories, she interjected, her voice steadier than she felt. I can initiate a campaign asking mothers to submit their challenges and triumphs, building an organic connection before we officially start. She shared glances of encouragement, noting how her passion sparked interest among the advisors. Yet, amid her strategizing, a visceral worry gnawed at her. Could she truly manage the pace of this initiative and still support her sister through her crisis? A nagging thought whispered, what if the demands of this project outstripped her ability to balance personal obligations? The meeting wound down, but Lily's questions only deepened. As the discussions turned toward logistics and timelines, she caught sight of the billionaire's eyes, gleaming with an intensity that made her heart race. He was not merely looking at her as a project leader, he seemed to see the earnest commitment behind her ambition. Lily, he said, expression shifting from businesslike to contemplative. I want you to understand that investing in this project is not just about money, it's about impact. Your connection to the cause could catalyze its success. That being said, I sense there's more you're handling than just this initiative. How will you ensure you don't lose sight of this amidst your personal challenges? His question sent a jolt through her. For a brief moment, she was stripped bare under the weight of his scrutiny. The wall she had built, separating her personal life from her professional aspirations, began to crack. Would showing vulnerability aid her cause or hinder it? I appreciate that you see me as more than just a figurehead here, she replied, pushing through the uncertainty. I have to recognize that my personal journey is intertwined with the project's essence. If I fall apart, the project loses its authenticity. But I also know that my sister's situation cannot derail our progress. Determination flared as she spoke, ignited by the realization that acknowledging her struggles might fortify her initiative rather than weaken it. Lily wrapped up her thoughts, but an impending question lingered. How would she harness this newfound openness without losing control? The complexity of her situation challenged her understanding of leadership. The meeting concluded, drawing applause and affirmations from the team, yet Lily's mind spun like a top. As she left the boardroom, energy coursed through her veins, firing up the flames of her determination. She encountered the outside world, a stark contrast to the cozy exchanges of strategy and support from the meeting. With the sun nearly setting, a thought sat heavily on her mind. Did she have what it really took to merge her passion with the operational realities of launching a cause? The external pressure was mounting, but in acknowledging her human struggles, could she redefine the very essence of leadership? The way forward felt uncertain. Was she prepared for the challenges to come? She glanced at her phone, the screen lighting up with another message from her sister. The juxtaposition of familial duty and professional ambition pressed down on her. As she stepped into the bustling street, one resolute thought surfaced, cutting through the chaos: the real fight had only just begun. Would the choices she made in the coming days reinforce her commitment, or would they unravel the threads she had worked to weave together? In that moment of pause, she breathed deeply, readying herself for the unknown. A daunting battlefield loomed ahead. Was she ready to confront the reality of what it meant to advocate passionately while navigating her personal turmoil? As Lily navigated the vibrant streets, illuminated by the hues of the setting sun, her mind buzzed with unresolved questions. The implications of the meeting weighed heavily on her, intertwining her ambitions with the darker currents of her personal life. Each step echoed a new challenge, a reminder of the duality she faced. Her phone vibrated again. It was her sister, a simple question about their mother's health, but the underlying urgency made Lily's heart race. How could she respond while balancing the weight of her new responsibilities? She paused, standing against a lamppost, wrestling with the decision, whether to answer or focus on the tasks ahead. This was not just a moment of indecision, it was a critical point of self-discovery. The ability to compartmentalize her life was swiftly eroding. Ignoring the call, she continued walking, her thoughts shifting to the billionaire's words about impact. Could her connection to the project truly shape its journey? There was a palpable potential in her plan, a campaign that could resonate and unite, but what of the struggle within her own family? The disconnect felt stark, a fragile thread linking her aspirations to daily struggles. Arriving at her office, she was enveloped in the familiar scent of polished wood and fresh coffee. Her colleagues buzzed with energy, discussing their next steps, but all Lily could hear was the sound of her sister's voice, pleading almost, echoing in her mind. Taking a seat at her desk, she tried to immerse herself in the numbers and strategies, yet every formula she drafted felt hollow. No more distractions, she muttered under her breath, trying to drown out the gnawing guilt. She needed clarity, a tactical advantage in this intricate landscape. Instead, every distraction seemed to amplify her doubts. Was she truly the right person to lead this initiative? Each moment spent indecisively weighed against her ability to advocate effectively. As the hours of planning dragged on, a sudden realization struck her, a revelation about her own resilience. She needed to be more than just a strategic mind, she had to embody the role of a leader willing to be vulnerable. Her experiences shaped her vision, providing authenticity that could be leveraged into something much deeper. With renewed determination, she pieced together a draft for the campaign's announcement, weaving in snippets of real-life stories, her sister's story being the catalyst that inspired her initiative. This would extend beyond cold statistics, it would humanize their goals. The energy on the team felt infectious as they rallied behind her vision, and for the first time, she visualized the project blossoming. Suddenly, an email arrived from the billionaire, the subject line reading, "Urgent, please read." Her pulse quickened as she opened it. He requested a meeting to discuss his ideas about further funding, hinting that there was much more he wanted to reveal. The weight of anticipation pressed down on her chest. What could this potentially mean for her project? But another thought swirled ominously in the back of her mind: was he genuinely interested in their cause, or was there something more lurking behind his offer? Each potential benefit seemed to come with an implicit cost. "Focus, Lily," she chided herself, shaking off the creeping apprehension. She needed to prepare properly for this discussion. The stakes were too high to approach this casually, she could not allow herself to be outmaneuvered. As night fell, she jotted down key points and questions for the meeting. The clarity of purpose returned alongside a sense of impending confrontation. Would this pivotal moment reinforce her resolve, or would it unravel the threads she'd worked so hard to weave? With the weight of her sister's illness looming ever larger and the billionaire's unexpected support hinting at potential transformation, one thing was clear: the next meeting might just tilt the scales, forcing her to confront the heart of her mission. The moment hung thick with possibilities as she prepared for the next chapter. Was she equipped to define her own ambitions, or would she merely become a pawn in a game larger than herself? The answers lay just ahead, waiting to be uncovered. The next day dawned with an unsettling mix of anticipation and anxiety vibrating in Lily's chest. This was at the meeting that could shape her career, her project, and perhaps even her family's future. She arrived at the opulent office of the billionaire, his name now synonymous with possibility, yet it carried undertones of obligation that gnawed at her resolve. As she walked through the sleek, minimalist space, every reflection in the glass walls reminded her of the weight of her decisions. Reaching the boardroom, she took a moment to breathe deeply, centering herself amidst the chaos of her thoughts. She needed to exude confidence not just for herself but for everyone who depended on her vision. He entered a few moments later, exuding a magnetic charisma that was hard to ignore. After exchanging pleasantries, they moved on to the agenda, and as he laid out his thoughts on the project, Lily focused intently. "Your approach emphasizes community engagement, which I admire," he said, leaning back casually in his chair. "However, we need something more striking to attract significant investments." "Striking?" She raised an eyebrow, sensing the need to clarify. "You mean a more sensational angle?" He smiled, clearly enjoying the exchange. "Exactly. Capturing attention is key. People throw money at stories that resonate emotionally similar to what you're trying to articulate." There it was again, the pervasive idea that she needed to craft a narrative that echoed someone else's experience rather than her own. It felt like a tug-of-war between her integrity and the reality of funding, between her drive to make real change and the manipulative allure of glamorized storytelling. "What about authenticity?" she challenged, her voice steadier than she felt. "If it's merely a sensational pitch, won't it detract from our mission?" His gaze adapted, curiosity replacing amusement. But do you think authenticity can't be woven into a powerful narrative? Perhaps your sister's journey can be depicted as a case study, something relatable yet elevated. It humanizes the cause while also tugging on the heartstrings. Win-win. Lily's heartbeat quickened again, but not from anxiety this time. She was beginning to see a path forward, yet it felt treacherous. She wanted to weave her sister's story into her initiative, but was there a risk of commodifying her pain? A part of her recoiled at the thought of reducing her family's struggles to mere statistics. "There's a line, though," she said, her voice softer, almost vulnerable. "I can't lose sight of the human element in pursuit of funds. This has to mean something." The billionaire nodded, his expression unreadable. "Then let us ensure it does. You have the potential to lead the charge. It's about balancing the narrative while keeping the mission alive." Wrapping her mind around the implications of his proposition proved challenging. The reality was that his backing could bring substantial change. She envisioned her mother, surrounded by aides, thriving, while her sister worried less about bills. But achieving that dream by compromising her ethics? Was it a contradiction she could live with? The meeting droned on, but her thoughts spiraled, her very foundation quaking under the weight of conflicting emotions. By the time they parted, she felt more fragmented than empowered. Walking back to her office, the walls of the building loomed larger, suffocating under the expectations imposed upon her. She hadn't gained the clarity she sought. Instead, she found herself at a crossroads, irony threading deeper into her personal and professional life. Days turned into nights as Lily grappled with the ethical dilemma facing her. Until she could reconcile the two sides of her existence, she would remain in limbo. The lines had blurred, and she was unsure if she was overcoming obstacles or merely laying foundations for future regrets. What would she ultimately choose? The pursuit of her sister's well-being at any cost, or the integrity of a cause she believed in? As the stakes increased for her family and her career, one thing was unequivocal: the upcoming decision held enormous potential ramifications. The balance of ambition and morality teetered dangerously, and the time had come to confront her deepest fears. On the horizon, another meeting loomed, this one pivotal enough to redefine who she was and what she represented. Would she harness the power of vulnerability to find her authentic voice, or would she cave to the seductive allure of a potentially compromised success? The answer lingered like a shadow over her, waiting to be unraveled. Lily awoke to a heaviness settling on her chest, her internal battle escalating as the day of the next meeting approached. The clock ticked a relentless rhythm, each second amplifying her dread. She needed a plan, one that would allow her to stay true to herself while navigating the slick demands of her potential benefactor. She spent the morning cross-referencing notes, examining statistics that reflected the community's needs while keeping her sister's narrative authentically intertwined. The struggle lay in forming a compelling story without cheapening their experience. As she typed, the words began to flow, yet doubt lurked at the edges. Was this narrative powerful enough? Would it resonate with those who could potentially support her vision? Deciding to step away from her computer, she took a moment to reflect. She walked to the window, watching life unfold on the streets below. Her determination solidified as she recalled her sister's laughter and resilience. This project wasn't merely about funding, it was about giving them hope, about proving that struggle didn't define their worth. Arriving at the meeting later that afternoon, Lily felt a renewed sense of purpose. The conference room, with its swanky furnishings, seemed less intimidating now. It felt more like a stage for what was about to unfold. When the billionaire entered, she noticed an acute shift in herself. She was ready to confront the expectations with clarity. "Lily," he greeted with a practiced charm. "I trust you've prepared something that'll impress." "Actually," she began, her voice steady, "I want to present a narrative that conveys the real stories of those we aim to help. This isn't about sensationalism, it's about integrity. To truly connect with potential investors, we need authenticity that resonates." He raised an eyebrow, intrigued yet skeptical. "And how do you propose doing that?" "I plan to highlight my sister's journey. Her struggles, her triumphs. These aren't just numbers. They're real lives affected by what we're trying to achieve. A heartfelt story can move mountains when it is genuine. It shows that we're not just looking for funding, we're looking to create lasting change." She paused, gauging his reaction. The billionaire's expression was unreadable, but she pushed forward, driven by a conviction she hadn't fully acknowledged until now. "It's easy to strip away humanity in pursuit of dollars. I refuse to let that happen. This needs to mean something not just to us, but to everyone who could benefit." The billionaire leaned forward, his fingers steepled. "Interesting approach, but you should know the stakes are high. If we don't present a captivating story, we risk losing crucial backing. Emotional connections can speed up decisions. People need to feel compelled to act." "Then let them feel," she replied, emboldened. "If we touch their hearts with truth, it can lead to genuine support, not just monetary backing. Success shouldn't come at the expense of our ethics." Silence wrapped around them like a thick fog, and for a moment, Lily feared she had overstepped. Yet, she remained resolute, standing firm. She was reminded that her journey thus far had been about fighting for what was right, not just for herself, but for those she loved. "All right, let us see that story," he finally agreed, a hint of respect creeping into his tone. As they moved forward, discussing how to weave in her sister's narrative, a potential solution emerged between them, one that honored her vision without sacrificing its essence. However, the road ahead promised tricky twists. What would it mean for her if they succeeded? Could she navigate the complexities of the moral terrain without losing herself? The unsettling truth was that this collaboration, this powerful connection to a billionaire, could either elevate or ensnare her. She felt a frisson of exhilaration threading through her confidence, but beneath lay an underlying anxiety about the direction they were taking. Would they create authentic change, or would they slip into the tempting comfort of polished facades? The meeting stretched onward, revealing layers of potential, but as they closed discussions, Lily wondered if she truly had the strength to champion the narrative she so passionately believed in. Stepping out, she felt the cool rush of the breeze, contemplating the balance of ambition and authenticity. But deep down, there was another palpable question gaining prominence. If she could stave off the allure of superficial success, what other unexpected truths about her potential might she uncover in this journey? Lily stood at the precipice of her future, policy papers and emotional narratives swirling through her mind. The connections she had forged in the past weeks began to solidify into a coherent mission, a clear vision she could pursue without sacrificing her values. She felt the pulse of her ambition, growing stronger, built on the foundations of authenticity, resilience, and a profound understanding of hardship. The day approached when she would present her refined initiative to the billionaire and his advisors. With every passing hour, the weight of responsibility pressed down on her. This was no longer merely her cause, it was a beacon for countless other mothers who were often drowned out by the noise of judgment and ridicule. As she paced through her small apartment, an unexpected calm washed over her. She had fought through storms of self-doubt to arrive at this moment. It was time to showcase the strength of her convictions. Presentation day arrived, and as she entered the expansive boardroom, she felt a surge of determination. The billionaire had assembled a team, each person filled with insights and, of course, skepticism. But she was ready, armed with emotional testimonies and heartfelt narratives. She stood tall. "Thank you for gathering today," she began, catching the attention of all present. "I'm here to share not just a project, but the true lives that our initiative seeks to uplift." The echo of her voice reverberated around the polished walls, grounding her thoughts. "This isn't about money alone, it's about giving these mothers a voice that carries weight." She unfolded her sister's story, detailing the struggles of motherhood compounded by health crises, and how it had galvanized her into action. With each word, she captured the hearts of her audience, intertwining statistics with the raw emotion of lived experience. She emphasized the importance of community support and shared experiences, painting a vivid image of possibility. As she spoke, she saw the shift in expressions on the faces around her. Initially skeptical, the advisors shifted to tentative engagement, leaning closer, nodding thoughtfully, intrigued by the authenticity of her narrative. The billionaire watched her intently, a vibrant mix of admiration and curiosity flashing in his eyes. "This is the vision I want to realize," she asserted, passion infusing her words. "Together, we can create digital spaces where every story matters and where funding acts in service to this deeper mission. If we can draw from these experiences, we could ignite profound change not just for mothers, but for entire communities." An advisor raised a question, allowing Lily to dive even deeper into her strategic framework. The discussion turned into an empowering dialogue, and she felt the weight lift from her shoulders. She was no longer just an aspiring leader but a vital contributor to a movement. As the meeting progressed, the billionaire began to discuss funding options. Everything Lucy had envisioned started to take shape, and it wasn't just about financial backing, it was about crafting a legacy built on authenticity. "Lily," he said thoughtfully, "you've reminded us of the core of our mission. If we can package this truthfully, it will resonate." He leaned back, contemplative yet assertive. "I'm willing to back this initiative with significant funding, but we must keep that authenticity intact. Your proposal will set the tone." Joy surged within her, intertwining with disbelief. The vision she nurtured, fueled by her life experiences, was being embraced as a legitimate vehicle for change. As she garnered their agreement, the feeling was electric. Lily left the conference room with her heart racing, excitement coursing through her veins. Every doubt she harbored during sleepless nights dissipated into the ether. She had achieved recognition, competence, and, most importantly, resolution of her inner conflict. This was the pivotal moment, the transformation from a girl burdened with judgment to a young woman securing her rightful place as a leader. She accomplished what she once thought impossible, converting her pain into proactive purpose and lifting others as she rose. Emboldened by their support, Lily began drafting the campaign's first phase, a project that would catapult neglected voices into the spotlight. There was no turning back, and no more time for hesitation. Lily felt the fire burning bright within her. It would forge a formidable path forward. Through her trials, she had discovered resilience beyond her years. No longer defined by her past mistakes, she stood as a proud advocate for a movement full of hope, courageously intertwining her personal story with a broader narrative ripe for change. And as she stepped outside into the crisp air, the sunset casting golden hues across the sky, she knew this was just the beginning. Clarity replaced confusion, and purpose supplanted doubt. Lily Collins was no longer just a teenage mother struggling to navigate her circumstances. She had effectively transformed herself into a catalyst for change, embodying the courage to bridge the gap between challenges and achievements. Believe in your potential and act upon it. The world is waiting for your story. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.